Okay, welcome everybody. We are going to go ahead and get started today. Thank you for attending today's webinar, Enhancing Classroom Success with Schoology. And while you wait for things to get started, please feel free to take the 3-question survey that's kind of in the middle towards the right of your screen. And if you're watching the archive of this webinar, we will still receive your answers, so we would love to have that feedback from you too. Before we begin, we want to cover a few housekeeping items. At the bottom of your audience console are multiple application widgets that you can use during the webinar and while watching the archive. So if you have any questions during the webcast, you can click on the Q&A widget at the bottom and submit your question. We will try to answer these during the webcast, but if, for instance, a fuller answer is needed or we run out of time, we will answer it later via email. And we do answer all questions submitted through the Q&A widget, whether you're watching the live version or the archive. If you are watching the live session, we encourage you to share ideas or ask questions through the blue group chat widget down at the bottom. It has 2 little speech bubbles on it. And Michael, my colleague, will also be posting links to additional resources throughout the webinar as well in the group chat area. A copy of today's slides and additional information is available in the green resource list widget that looks like a folder at the bottom of your screen. And you can expand the slide area by clicking on the maximize icon in the top right of the slide area or by dragging the bottom right corner of the slide area. You can minimize any of these widget areas by clicking the minimize icon in the top right corner of that window. If you have any technical difficulty, please click on the Help widget. It has a question mark icon and covers common technical issues. An on-demand version of the webcast will be available approximately 1 day after the webcast and can be accessed using the same audience link that was sent to you earlier. So feel free to share what you're learning on Twitter with the hashtag FEK12, as in forward edge K12. So let's get started. My name is Katie Seamer, and like I mentioned before, Michael Roush is also with us, sharing links in the group chat and helping to answer your questions in the Q&A widget. So a little bit about Forward Edge and who we are as a company. We are a K-12 technology company, and when I say that, I mean we do all things technology for schools, including selling hardware, setting up and managing wireless networks, and we even actually have our own cabling team that will pull and run cables to hang APs and move projectors. And now we are beginning to heavily focus on the curriculum and integration side of things. So once you have that technology in teachers and students' hands, how do you use it effectively? And in the C&I department, as we call it, we come with an education background and classroom experience. So in short, we offer visioning and planning services, provide professional development, and we serve as on-site integration coaches to multiple schools and districts. And speaking of that, Michael and I actually were both on site today and are in a school building. So if all of a sudden you hear a sports team run by outside, I do apologize for that. But we tried to find a quiet classroom in this building for the webinar. So what's on the agenda for the webinar today? We do try to structure these so they are as close to 30 to 45 minutes as possible to allow a decent amount of time for Q&A and to answer the questions that you have. So in that short time period, we are going to talk a little bit about blended learning and what an LMS is, why you would need an LMS, and then today we're talking about Schoology, and we're going to give you an overview. So this webinar is really not geared towards people who have been actively using Schoology for a really long time and are would consider themselves experts. It's really a brief overview of features, a great introduction for teachers if they're thinking about using Schoology, or maybe their district just purchased the paid version and they just aren't really sure where to get started and what all this new system can do for them. So before we do start, you should see a poll on your screen, just trying to get a gauge for how much experience folks do have with Schoology who are attending the webinar. So I'll give you just a couple of seconds. If you wouldn't mind to answer, that would be great. And let's check out. We'll see. Doesn't look like too many answers are coming in right now. That's okay. So we'll just keep going. So first, let's talk about blended learning. What is blended learning? And really, there's a lot of formal sort of models of blended learning, but in the sense that we're talking about today, it's really just a mix of that traditional face-to-face instruction and online components. So if you essentially are using technology at all in your face-to-face classrooms in any way, then you're creating a blended learning experience for your students. And we're not going to get into all of it in this webinar. There's just not time, but there is an abundance of research that supports that incorporating technology and different digital tools into a face-to-face classroom dramatically improves student outcomes and the learning for students. So it's, you're hearing a lot in your classrooms and from administrators and change agents that it's really important that we integrate technology into the classroom and use this stuff with our students. But it's not just about, having the technology. You also have to use it effectively to create a meaningful experience for students. So what is an LMS? It stands for Learning Management System. And so I like to say that you can think of an LMS as your digital classroom or a place to collect all of those digital resources for students. You can distribute and collect assignments, communication, you can give assessments, and lots more. But that's just kind of the bird's eye view and little description of what an LMS is. So why might you need an LMS or a learning management system? If we're trying to incorporate this blended learning experience for our students, you may have a digital textbook. And a lot of districts that we work with now, we're seeing are moving to actually no formal adopted textbook. They're just using a number of online resources to sort of curate their own version of a textbook now. And let's say that you have a YouTube video that you're trying to show for a lesson. You're trying to differentiate your assignments. You have website 1 that you use for enrichment, website 2, 3, and 4 that you use for enrichment for your students. You need a place for students to quickly access all the instructional materials that they missed when they were absent. You're also going to show this online article that you want students to read and do something with for this lesson. You've got a lot of information to communicate to students and parents, whatever online resource the school is providing you with. Then you've got students who need some intervention help, so you've got websites 5, 6, 7, 8 that are meant for students who need some extra help to see. And then you've got students who are using website number 9 to create a class project. You can see how this is seeming like, holy cow, that might be impossible to keep up with. All of these online resources and different digital material. How will your students know where to go, when to go, and how to access all of this stuff? So this is where, first and foremost, an LMS really comes into play, because you can use that LMS to effectively integrate all of those different digital tools and websites. So students are going to one place to get to all of those different resources that you have and turn assignments in, so on and so forth. And so again, in LMS, just kind of hitting the point home again, it's just going to make your life so much easier. I think of it kind of like the Staples easy button for integrating a blended learning environment and all of these digital tools into your classroom. So real quick, another poll. You should see it on your screen now, if you wouldn't mind going ahead if you are currently using an LMS. So if you're not using anything, it's up at the top. I've got a number of just some of the most popular things that we see. There's another option there. Or if you're doing more of like a class website, like a Google site or Weebly or something like that. So I'll give you a few seconds to answer this poll. It's just always nice to know what people are currently using. All right, I don't think this group today is feeling the polls, so we'll just keep going, no big deal. So now we're going to get into Schoology and how Schoology can help you. Why we think it's sort of one of the best learning management solutions out there. And just as a disclaimer, we do not work for Schoology. We have zero affiliation with Schoology. Just as a CNI department at Forward Edge, we feel like it is a really strong solution for schools. A lot of the schools that we work with are either using the free version of Schoology or they have purchased the district enterprise version of Schoology. So we just have a lot of interaction with Schoology and really feel like it is the best solution. So that's a completely unsolicited by Schoology opinion there. And it is pronounced Schoology, not Schoology, just as an FYI. So I would say that this was one of the hardest presentations that I have tried to sit down and narrow down, okay, without knowing who's attending and what they're using and what they want to see, what should I show them? Because Schoology can just do so much. So we are by no means going to get into every feature that Schoology can do today. We just don't have the time, even if we took up the whole hour. We would need days to cover it all. But so here's just some high-level overviews. You can create courses that allow you to add links and other websites and materials, create and collect assignments, create class discussion boards and grade them, which we are going to look at discussion boards today, create tests and quizzes that will also auto-grade, and much, much more. Course organization is incredibly easy with folders. You can put folders inside of folders in Schoology, which is one of the reasons I like it over some other solutions. It does also connect with Google Drive. So if you're a teacher who's been using Google Classroom, or if you're a Google Apps for Education district, they will easily connect with one another, and they're sort of meant to go hand in hand together. Create and grade with rubrics. Teachers can also create rubrics and share those rubrics with other teachers to use. So that is always nice for students to know exactly what you're grading them on. On the same lines of sharing with other teachers, you can create and share all course material with other teachers and resources. And you can even collaborate with them to cut down on your workload. Post announcements to simplify communication with both students and parents. Automatically add anything with a due date to students' calendars so you're not working double duty. If you create an assignment and set the due date, it is automatically added to your calendar and your students' calendars. Archive and copy entire courses so you'll never be starting from scratch again. And holy cow, there's just so much more that Schoology can do. Those are just some of the features that we see are sort of the most popular, or some things that really kind of grab people to get started with Schoology. So let's kind of start taking a dive into Schoology here. So what you're seeing now on your screen is the Schoology homepage, and over on the left-hand side, it's highlighted now inside of a yellow box, you'll see your personal user tabs. So you have your recent activity, which is that main screen we saw, your homepage. Looks kind of like Facebook with the news feed. And then you see the calendar there. That's that calendar I mentioned. If you add a due date, it automatically goes to students' calendars. You can private message people. The people area, you can friend request other teachers. So if you have, a teacher friend who works in another district, you can actually connect through Schoology, and then you'd be able to share resources there as well. You can subscribe to blogs within Schoology, and then there's also an app center. So a lot of third-party applications or websites that you may already be using will integrate right with Schoology, and so you can access them from within your Schoology course. And next, we have this middle column. And this middle column right here on our recent activity of the home page is all of the announcements that are posted from any course or group that we're enrolled in. So if you're posting announcements to students inside of your course, it's automatically going to be added to the home page here. So that is super nice, one aggregated view of everything that's going on in Schoology. Over on the right-hand side, I have upcoming. I don't have anything listed right there, but any due date that you assign, students would see that they have an upcoming assignment, a test, and a date and a link directly to that no matter what course they're enrolled in. Again, it would be an aggregated view for them right there in their upcoming. That will also show up inside of the course, which we'll see in just a little bit. Right above that upcoming area, you have your messages, that little envelope icon. So if anyone sends you a personal message, you'd be able to see it right there. It would light up in red, sort of like a smartphone notification. And then the middle column would be any friend requests that you as an instructor have. And then that last one almost looks like a little tower with, a signal coming out of it. That is to notify you of any notifications in Schoology. So if a student, submits an assignment, posts something, comments, anything, you'd get a notification there, and you can control those if you're getting too many notifications. And then that little arrow to the right of your name, you can adjust all of your account settings. And then up at the very top, our navigation, which is universal throughout Schoology. The home is the page that we saw when I first pulled it up. That courses drop down will show you a list of all of the courses that you are enrolled in. Same thing for your students. In the Groups tab, the Groups is just like a course, only there's no graded features, so you won't see a grade book or attendance. This is really great for clubs, sports teams, teacher teams, etc., things like that. Maybe you have a grade level team. I know middle schools will use it a lot for their grade level or team to create a group for that to send that team correspondence as well. And then the resources area. We're not going to get into the resources area. That could almost be a whole webinar on its own. But in the resources area, you can actually store material that you're not using yet for your courses. If you archive an entire course, at the end of the year or semester, it will save to your resources, so you can just copy it down next year. And you can also collaborate and share with other teachers. So individual items or entire courses you could be sharing and collaborating with one another. So I'm going to try another poll here. We'll see if you guys are in the mood to answer or not. Do you currently communicate with students and parents online? So I'll give you a couple seconds to decide if you want to answer. So let's see. All right, so we had somebody change their mind. So it looks like the folks who answered the polls, yes, but you want an easier way to do it by and large. So Schoology makes it super easy through course updates. So if I click that courses drop down from the very top that we just saw in the navigation and select a course, I have an updates page here. So you'll see I have it circled in red, my little updates page. And here I have an update that I've posted. And then I have this little text box at the top for me to type another update. A couple of those little icons right underneath the text box, right above my previous post that's showing up, you can upload an attachment. So let's say you had a Word document or a PDF that you wanted to attach with this update. You can add links to additional websites, and you can actually push out polls right from here too. So a couple other things you can do, but those are pretty handy. And so you'll see the update that I have posted that's already showing up on my updates page actually has a link associated with it. And then you'll see again, we're getting kind of that Facebook feel that comes in where students can like something and they can comment. You can disable the comments, FYI, but it kind of creates that nice social feel. It's also a great way for students, as they get older and progress, to reach out for help on things in your classroom wall. So you're not the only one getting the emails at 10 o'clock at night to help them when they finally have a chance to sit down and study. So here I'm inside of my course, and I've posted this update on my updates page. And so then you can see right here, this is back on the home screen where that update has automatically gone to my home page as well. So both myself and any student enrolled in the class will see it in both places, inside of the course, on the updates page, and on the home screen. And there's one little handy tip if anyone's already a Schoology user. When you're inside of your course and you initially post your update, if you click that little speech bubble right next to post and then select the bell icon, it will actually pin that update to the top of the updates page. If you see there, I have it highlighted in a big yellow rectangle all across the top of my course there. So it pins to the top of the updates page and it pins to the top of your materials page, which we're going to get into next. So I know a lot of teachers will use this as a great way. The kids know that what they're supposed to do is going to be right there. So they log into Schoology, they look for the announcements on what they're supposed to be doing that day, and then they can get started, whether it's in Schoology or if it's a face-to-face activity or something that they're supposed to be doing. So the updates are super easy to use, goes in a lot of places. Once parents are connected to the course, the parents will also see any update that is posted by an instructor of their student as well. Also, I didn't mention before, and it's not somewhere else in the slide, so I want to mention it now. There is a Schoology app that can be used on smartphones and iPads as well. And then the updates would also ping with a little notification through the app as well. So sorry for that little detour. But now we're going to look at the course materials page, which we just landed on previously by pinning our update to the top. So the course materials page is really where you're going to add all of your content for the student. And I recommend creating and using folders to stay organized within Schoology. So the first thing we're going to look at is uploading documents. If you have existing PDFs, Word documents, anything, you can get started by uploading those to Schoology. When you're in your course on the materials page, you just hit Add Materials, and then you select Add File, Link, External Tool, select File, and then you'll upload it as an attachment just like you would in an email. And then you'll see here I uploaded a PDF. So it doesn't have to just be something within Schoology. You can take all of your existing content, no matter what the format, and start working to get it on Schoology. So now if I clicked that, it would display the PDF for me within Schoology or download it. Same thing with adding links. So links to your digital textbooks or all of your other web resources. You're going to begin the process the same way by selecting Add Materials, Add File, Link, External Tool. Then you're going to select Link, and then you just copy and paste the hyperlink to whatever the website is. So for my example, I'm doing an online textbook, McGraw-Hill Connect Ed, and I just wanted to show you here, you see this little screenshot of Schoology and how the Connect, I'm not signed in, I don't actually have a Connect Ed textbook account, so I couldn't log in, but it would look the same if I had logged in. It would just be my textbook there. So a lot of websites will just display right in Schoology, so kids aren't even leaving to go to multiple websites. So that is super handy. So that is documents and links. And now another quick poll. Do you currently distribute and collect assignments online? So I'm going to give you about 5 seconds to answer. And yes, but I want an easier way to do it. So same thing as the updates. So for assignments in Schoology, you can distribute and collect work through Schoology. Again, we're still on that materials page, and this time we're going to select Add Assignment. Then you'd fill out all the information. Little quick tip, if you look at the bottom of this box where it is the little brown box with a green arrow that points down, if I click that to disable, it will actually allow me to still set up an assignment in Schoology, but then students aren't submitting something to me in Schoology. So if there's work, projects that you're going to collect hard copies of face-to-face in the classroom, you can still set them up in Schoology so that it will still add to the student's calendar. Parents would be notified. They could access the resources and everything from within Schoology. So this is what it looks like as the teacher. Once students have submitted their assignment, I have my description right in the middle. And then I chose to use a rubric to grade this assignment. So I'm seeing the rubric right there in the middle of the screen. My students would also see that so they know how I'm grading. And then I see all of my students over on the right-hand side under submissions. And as I grade, their grades will show up there too. Schoology is super handy. I've kind of blown it up just to make it more exaggerated on this slide. But you can see, this student I haven't graded yet. They still need grading, so it's highlighted in blue. They submitted it on time, so I'm seeing my green on time. If they had submitted it after my due date, it would show up red late. So that is super handy. And then any student who hasn't submitted yet, you'd see them at the bottom and it would say has not yet submitted. So in one quick glance, you can see who has not turned it in. I always think it's helpful if you see it from the student view. So very quickly, we're going to switch to what the student's view of an assignment looks like. And so this is a student's view. Again, they see the same description and that same rubric that I'm using to grade right there in the middle. And then the students have the option to click Submit Assignment. So once they hit Submit Assignment, they have three options. They can either upload a document, so if they've, created a video that they need to upload or taken a screenshot of work somewhere else or, have a Word document, whatever it may be, they can upload it here. They can also click the Create tab and then type their answers or their response right here for you. And then if they click the Resources tab and connect their Google Drive account, they can also access all of their Google Drive documents from right here too and submit it that way to teachers as well. So multiple options for students to submit. And then once they do submit, they will see that assignment submitted over on the right-hand side. One item submitted on time. If they need to, they can submit the assignment again. So this is flipped back to the teacher view now for the grading side of things. So as that teacher view, if you remember that all that list of my students that I saw on the right-hand side, when I click one of those students' names, it pulls up their submission for me. I can add feedback all the way on the right. You see I have it highlighted in yellow. I can add feedback to my students. They can actually respond, so we could even kind of have a conversation right here about the student's work. And then up at the top where it says grade, it's another box highlighted in yellow. I can click to enter their grade right there. For this particular assignment, I chose to use a rubric. So if I click that little rubric icon, it will open up the rubric for me. And all I have to do is click to go through and click in the cell of where I want to add, for that particular student. And it automatically tallies up the score down at the bottom. You can override any of those individual cells or the overall grade. And if you look at that bottom area, that bottom criteria there, all the way to the right where it says 4 points, next to the little mouse icon, there's a speech bubble. If I click that, I can provide feedback very specifically on any one of those criteria points with the rubric. So, since I used a rubric, I just click, 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 click to enter my grade, type any feedback that I want, and then it automatically puts my grades into the Schoology gradebook. So this is a quick gradebook view. and it will automatically enter them right there. If I would click any one of those little blue page icons, it'll take me right back to their assignment so that I can see it if there's any question about that. So coming up, another quick poll. I'll give you about 5 seconds. Do you currently give online assessments other than the required state assessments? Yes or no here? All right, yes, so people are giving assessments. Awesome. Then I think you're going to really like Schoology's test and quizzes option. So you can use Schoology again in your courses materials page. When you hit that add materials button, you're selecting that test and quiz option. And then that right image, I've got, I just wanted to highlight all of the question types that you can use here. So we can do true, false questions, multiple choice. Ordering is really nice. Students have to drag and drop to put things in the correct order. Short answer essay questions, fill in the blank, matching questions, and these are if you're using Google Forms to give any online assessment, I think that you'll like Schoology tests and quizzes better. You just have a few more option types for the kids to answer. With true and false, I don't have time to show every question type, so I just want to highlight a few things about tests and quizzes for you. So true and false, if the answer is false, you can actually ask the students to correct the statement to make it true. There's word banks. You can provide extra words for any word banks. Lots of different things that you can do here. You can also create question banks, and then when you go to create a test or quiz, you can use questions from those question banks. So you could say, I want to pull, if I have a question bank with 10 questions, let's say, I could create my next test or quiz and pull from question bank A, and I want 5 out of these 10 questions. And then it will randomize those 5 questions for each student. So there's a handful of options that get really cool with the question banks too. You can import from like a Blackboard or Moodle format. So if you have some teachers, or if that's an LMS that your school is already using, or teachers have some stuff in those LMS systems, you can import there as well. So again, just a couple of these are this is the settings page for a teacher. It pretty much, when you're taking the assessment, it looks like a general online assessment. So I don't have an easy way to show you what that looks like for the students and for you. But a couple of really cool things that you can do in addition here. You can allow multiple attempts for the student. So if you're going to allow them to take it, an unlimited number of times, let's say, or even, they can take it up to 3 times, you have a few different options to grade this assessment. You can take the highest score that they got out of any time they took it. You can average the scores, or you can take the the latest score, the most recent score from them. So some cool ways to customize it. You can allow students to, after it's submitted, to see their answers if you want, to see their answers with correct answers, or they don't get to see anything at all. So that's all up to you. So lots of different settings to really make these assessments unique for students. And so as a teacher, to grade it, this is always something that I really liked. You have a couple options to actually go through and grade the assessment. So Schoology will grade any question type for you except for the short answer essay. So if you need to go through and it's already graded, most of your test, and you just have a couple of short answer questions that you need to go in and grade, you can either do it by student. So like you typically, let's say that you'd printed off the assessment and gave them a hard copy, that'll kind of look to you like what those looked like. You have one student and you have all their 1 through 25 answers that you can go through and grade. Or what I really like is the view by question option. So if my 1 through 23 on my assessment are questions that Schoology can grade for me, and then my last 2 questions are essay questions, I can just go to that question, and now I can go through and see all 30 of my students answer to question number 4 here, and then just go through and grade those and give feedback on just that individual question if I want. And again, when you use any graded feature in Schoology and enter those grades, they're automatically plugged into your grade book here. So that final grade would be plugged in, after you hand graded any of those short answer essay questions there. So that is, again, super nice. I also like to encourage teachers to use the test quiz feature for assignments too, because then they're more interactive. Anything that it can grade for you, you can take care of that. Things like that, your typical kind of worksheet, as you might think of it, you could convert that to the test or quiz format in Schoology. It doesn't have to just be a test quiz. So next up, we've got 2 more features that we're going to cover. And one of those is discussion boards. So I love online discussion boards in Schoology. Schoology also makes it super easy to grade the discussion boards within Schoology, and I'm going to highlight some of those features for you. So once you are on your materials page and we click add materials and then add discussion, you'll enter the description here, your discussion prompt, and you'll notice that you can upload files for handouts. So if you need them to read an article that you have as a PDF before they make their prompt, you can attach that right to your prompt. If you want them to visit a website, you could put a video or a picture right there. If you wanted them to watch something or, look at a picture before they answer, you can do all of that. And then you'll just hit enable grading if you want this to be a graded discussion. And then you can also use rubrics to grade discussion boards, which makes grading these even easier. And then down at the bottom, right above the create, I've got a little icon highlighted in a yellow box. And it looks like a little person with like a stoplight right there. If you select that so it's colored in and not grayed out, then when students get to the discussion board, they will have to submit their initial prompt before they can see any of their classmates' responses. So you have to get an original thought out of them. They can't just look to see what other people wrote and then create a response themselves. So I think that's a really neat feature as well. So here's my discussion board. I've got my prompt at the top, and then I chose to put an image in here with the discussion board. I also chose to grade with a rubric because I think rubrics are great for students to know exactly what you're expecting, and it's also easy for me to grade in Schoology. So my rubric is showing up right below my discussion prompt for both me and my students. This is the same view that both myself and the students would see. And then if I scroll down just a little bit more, I will then see the discussion board. So again, it will look pretty much just like this for my students. They won't have the check marks over to the side on the right, and they won't be able to highlight user. But you'll use the text box at the top there to submit their response, and then they can reply to other students like a typical discussion board. Then, as the teacher, I have this handy highlight user tab. So when I click that drop down, I'll see all of my students listed in the class. Over to the right in blue, I see the number of responses that they had made. So both initial thoughts and replies right there. And then down at the bottom, I see who has not submitted anything and participated at all. So if I would select an individual student, it will actually then highlight them in like a grayish blue in my discussion board. So it makes it really easy. They stand out to me. Okay, boom, I can give him credit. He submitted and he replied to someone. Then if I click the check mark next to next to the student's name over on the right-hand side, it will allow me to grade. And since I've chosen to use a rubric, I can pop open my rubric and same thing like I did on an assignment, click, 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 and it plugs my grade right down at the bottom, and then it automatically pops it into the grade book. So super handy and easy. And the last feature type that we are going to highlight today for you is pages. And pages are really nice if you have information that you want, content that you want to deliver to students. And it's also, I have a lot of teachers who use it to create sort of an overview or an agenda of the week for students. So on that materials page, if I select add page, then that image that you see to the right, I've got a yellow arrow pointing to it, weekly agenda, just so you know what a page, a Schoology page, looks like when it's on your materials page. So if I click that weekly agenda page, here's an example for you. This is a page that I created in Schoology. I can put videos, images. I put a video up at the top, something inspirational for them. And then I've got my Monday, Tuesday, so on and so forth through the rest of the year. And I've got my agenda. What can the kids expect? The nice thing about doing this as a page, instead of just attaching like a Word document or a Google Doc or whatever it might be that you're typically creating your weekly plans in, I can link right in my Schoology page to any item within Schoology. So for instance, that top yellow box where it says course organization folder, if I click that, it'll link me right to the folder in Schoology that I'm wanting the students to operate out of on Monday. Or if I click on the discussion board, click, and it links me right to the discussion board within Schoology. So it's another way to kind of help students navigate around as well. So pages are super handy. So, guys, that was, again, a small snapshot into some features of Schoology and what it could do. We really just tried to highlight some of the main features, things that we see teachers, either using in another system and looking for a solution on how can Schoology do this for you that you're used to using in a different LMS or platform, or teachers who aren't using anything and looking for a solution to simplify. So those are some of the main things. Schoology can obviously do a lot more than what we highlighted here, but we'd love your feedback as far as, if there's any one feature that you'd like to see in depth, we can definitely look at, including it in another webinar. So if there are any questions at all, please feel free, either submit them through the Q&A, or you're welcome to use the group chat as well. Storage limit for file uploads. Honestly, I don't think so. I have never run into that. I would need to Google it though for you really quickly. I think Michael's Googling it to find the answer right next to me, so we'll look at that for you. But I have not run into that at all. And I do have, we work with a number of technology teachers or art teachers who love using Schoology, and they have kids working in Photoshop on school computers, but they'll upload like the initial Photoshop file for them to use in Schoology, so then the kids just go there and access it, download it, open it up in Photoshop on the computer. So we've had kids and teachers uploading some pretty hefty files from programs like that, architecture classes, large videos that they've created. So I don't see that being an issue, but we'll look into that and try to get an exact answer for you. Good question. Any other questions? Again, feel free to submit in the Q&A or the group chat. We've got just a couple more slides, so I'm going to keep going through those slides, but at any point, we try to get done to allow time at the end for questions. So please, if you do have a question, submit in the group chat or the Q&A area so we can answer those for you. And again, if you're watching the archive version, you can still submit in the Q&A and we'll get notified and be able to get back to you. All right. Another question. Parent portal. Yes, there is. And just didn't have time really today to highlight the parent portal, but so it is similar. Let's see if you're using Progress Book or if you've used like Google Classroom or Edmodo or anything like that. Each parent gets a unique code for their student, and then they create an account and enter their parent access code, and they can link together multiple students. So if they have more than one student at the school, they can link all of those students together under their one parent account. And then the parents can see basically any correspondence between their child and the teacher. So any updates that the teacher would post, the parents would be able to see. They'd be able to see students' grades, anything that the student would post. They don't see things that other students post. So they wouldn't be able to see other students' work or, if other kids post on the updates page or something, they couldn't see all of that for student privacy. But the parent portal is definitely a great way to communicate because they'd have access to all of that too. And another thing we didn't have time to get into too much of today was groups and how you can use those. And let me pull it back up here. Here we go. So the groups drop down at the top. You can actually, if everything that we showed today can be done in the free version of Schoology. There are some additional features to all of these things if you do the paid enterprise version of Schoology. But one way or another, you can create a school group that parents would have access to. So you could even post information, as a principal of the building, or if there's school-wide information that needs to be given to parents or, handouts, AUPs that you need parents and students to sign. If you're not collecting them digitally, you could upload them to the group resource area, and then parents would have it right there to print and sign and have their kid bring it back in. So lots of things that you can do for parent communication. Yes, there's definitely a parent side of it. Another great question. Keep those questions coming if you have them. We've got plenty of time to answer them. All right, so I'm going to keep going. Again, feel free, if you have another question that comes up, feel free to submit it and I will stop and get back to it. So just a couple of final last minute things. If you want more Google training, so next month we're going to do a webinar on Google, but we do offer a 4-day technology integration boot camp featuring Google Apps for Education. It's not all about Google Apps, but a lot of it relates back to Google Apps for Education. And you can get up to 2 hours of graduate level credits. And our next date starts November 10th and 11th. And then the second half of the boot camp would be on December 8th and 9th. So if you have any interest in that at all, you can go to forward-edge.net/PD bootcamp for more information and to register. That is also a link directly there is in your resources list as well in that widget. Next month, the webinar will be October 19th, I believe. They're every third Wednesday at 4. And it will be on Google Apps for Education for building leadership. So how can you use GAF as a building leader, whether that's a teacher leader, a principal, district level leadership. We're going to talk about ways that you can incorporate GAF at the leadership level. So now if you want to get your contact hour certificate, you can either type this link in your internet browser, bit.ly/FE webinar 092116, or you can click the link in the resources widget and it will take you to our web page, which also has the link directly to the form. You do have to get at least 4 out of the 5 questions right. But if you do, it will send you a certificate with 1 contact hour. So if you're looking to use this for some PD, you will have that certificate. And you can take it as many times as you want if you don't pass the first time. So I will also push out this link. Now you should have a link on your screen that you can click as well to get to our webpage that has all of those links on them. And on our webpage is a link to the webinar evaluation, which I would very much appreciate any feedback so we can continuously improve this process as we go along and do these every third Wednesday of the month. And that is it for the webinar, guys. We will stick around for a few more minutes just in case anyone comes up with another question that they had about Schoology that we can help answer for you. Okay, guys, I think we did find an answer on Schoology's support forum by a Schoology employee that says for general storage on Schoology, the storage limit is currently 15 gigs per every 100 students in the school, but this limit is not something that is currently enforced. So that is the official Schoology answer. It's marked official comment in the community forum right now. All right, folks, if you are still in the webinar, it doesn't look like any more questions are coming through for the past few minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the live webinar. Any more questions going once, going twice. And so I'm going to stop this live webinar. But you can also access the recording using the same link that you were sent in your email when you registered. And we are also going to post it to our webpage at forward-edge.net/webinars. So by tomorrow, the archive link will be there as well. So thank you so much for coming. I hope we were able to answer some questions about Schoology for you. And we look forward to seeing you next month in October on the 19th for Google Apps for Education for Building Leadership. Thanks so much and make it a good week.